All right. You use code school?
Okay, like just for that, you have the right to be mad at me.
Yeah.
That means you're never gonna go to Microsoft ever.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
Just curious, would you guys by any chance know, it's kind of like random, is WeChat from like Japan? Yeah, it's like WeChat, this little app. It's like a little messenger app.
I haven't heard of it. I don't know. We're ready if you want to just do it.
It's funny because I saw like this page for the Ruby Bull anime. It reminded me a lot of this.
So we have a really cool speaker here today from Shahed, who's Shahed from Microsoft. He's going to talk about tech for startups. We're really excited to have him here today. So if you all can and ask a lot of questions. Ask him any question you want. He's here for us. So be sure to ask him a lot of questions about Microsoft, about tech, about startups, whatever.
All right. So usually with a small crowd, I like to ask everyone to introduce themselves really quick. Are there any groups here, or are you guys all individuals for your own startups?
There's a group here. We have some people learning the code, and me and Rob are running that.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll just do individuals, and if you're in a group, just identify who you're currently working with. We can start from this side of the room. Just your name and what you're doing at Garnisha.
Okay. My name is Ogway. I am working on Android. I'm with the workshop learning about different ways to code.
My name is Adam, and I'm working on the stuff. And I'm with the
I'm Rob, helping people learn to code, also working on an API for UMD data, UMD-IO, so that'll be cool.
I'm Nick, also doing both of those things. We're working together on both. David, I'm building a location-based app that loads up like web apps depending on the location.
more of this. I don't know. All right.
We also have a study.
He has a setup. Whatever it is. Okay.
I'm Mike. I'm building a neurofeedback device for video meditation. Good. I'm prototyping that to connect to the headset.
So I'm Chris, one of the directors for Startup Shell, also a freelance front-end web developer. We're currently doing work for a startup called Downflow, which is in the wellness platform. We're kind of a little more for them.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm one of the directors here at Cal. I sort of take care of events and biotech. I'm currently working in two startups. One is a 3D printing medical startup, and the second is a microfluidic platform for breast treatment.
I'm really gonna go after you. My name is Soliana. I'm here to learn about coding. I'm working on like front-end web development.
All right. So some of you had mentioned you're working on some front-end stuff, some web stuff, and I didn't ask particularly what language you're working on. Some of you did say what you're working with, because when you're working on solutions, it doesn't really matter what language or technology platform you started off on, as long as you have the intention to learn and you're solving real problems. Tomorrow, whatever you use could be thrown out to replace something else. If you have that drive to solve the problem, like with curing cancer, or whatever it is that you're working on, meditation. What was that meditation thing?
It's a neurofeedback. So it's next to the EEG headset.
Does it tell you whether you're meditating better or if you're getting better at it?
Yeah.
All right.
Vibrates that tells you while you're meditating.
So whatever you're solving, whether you're working with hardware or software, something in between, there's always some technology needs that you have. And the reason I'm here today, I'm wearing this Microsoft t-shirt, but instead of coming in and saying, hey, we have great products you can buy. What we usually do is I'd like to hear from you guys first to see what you're working on. And chances are there's something that we can provide for you. But I'm not going to start off with any products. I'll start off with here's technology that people normally think of. Here's something else you can add into whatever you're building. And here's ways that you can help. So with that, let's get started. My name is Shahed Chowdhuri. I don't know if people in the back row can read anything. All right, very good. So I've actually uploaded this up to my slide share. I'll email a little link to you later on. And I'm a technical evangelist with Microsoft. My blog is wakeupandcode.com, which hopefully when you wake up, you start coding right away, right? A lot of the time, it doesn't matter what time you wake up, right? Whether you're taking a nap in the afternoon or not, sometimes you just feel like you've got to do something. And maybe at the end of the evening, you don't want to go home without wrapping up. Does anyone ever have the feeling that you don't want to see something open and that you're in the middle of a problem? You know you can solve it tonight, but find a good stopping point. So hopefully you have that driving you to get where you're coming from. Down here at the bottom, I have my Twitter handle, at Shahed Chowdhuri, my first name, my last initial. Is anyone here on Twitter? Yeah, a couple of hands. So when you start your startup, definitely take a look at what social media channels are available to you. I won't touch on that too deeply, because the products that are currently out there are relevant trends. Like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they all have different functions they can coexist. But you can figure out a way to help promote yourself, not only promote yourself, but also to get help from others. So let's say you have a new Kickstarter to launch your product, but you want to be able to tweet that. Maybe you have a Facebook page that tweets or links that tweets so people can like. A lot of different things combined together. So figure out what's best for you, and don't feel like you have to do something because someone else because you have to give it something. So with that, let's see. So I forgot to grab your clip. I'm just going to use my mouse. It seems to work with this net. So who's Microsoft, by the way? All right. So thanks for letting us use today. The friendly projector guy is graphic. I think he works with you. Want directors?
He works for Linux, sorry.
Okay,
second traffic.
All right. So yeah, so we improvise. I don't like to make something where stare at some PowerPoint on the screen rather than make a two-way conversation. So the agenda today was I wanted to make it really concise. So we'll start with a quick introduction about software needs that a tech startup might have. Even if you're not a tech startup, so you find out that you still have some tech needs, right? Someone once said something like, every company is an IT. That's tough question about it. I've worked for IT for many years. I've been working professionally for over 17 years. And during that time, I worked for companies that were not IT at all, but they still had some software needs. Maybe they were providing insurance, financial services, something else. But everyone has some sort of IT. So we'll talk about how you can guide not only what you're doing today, but future endeavors and initiatives. All right. We'll go into app development and game development, whether you're building apps and games for the store, or whether you're submitting something to complement your primary business. So let's say you have a great product that you're working with, but there's no app component to it. You'd like to be able to promote it somehow. Maybe you have something which is throwing to the store. People can be engaged, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to not only get our customers' attention, we want them to stay engaged. One example I've seen is some car companies, instead of just having cars on the street, they'll have maybe a little app for the screen that you can download either on the game console or your phone, and you're just racing through some obstacles. It doesn't really serve any purpose, I don't think, but it's there to remind you that Nissan is the next car available. Just an example. So think about that when you're developing stuff. In the middle, I have cloud services. So when you think about what you might need in the cloud, when people are clear on what their cloud is, what they can do with it, or what does Amazon have versus Microsoft. So I try to decouple the technology versus the solution you're trying to solve. So we try to hear about what each person is doing, right? Think about what is the best solution. Sometimes it's not something that I can give you, but sometimes it is. Maybe it's not something that you're ready for, but hopefully you'll learn something. And then finally, we'll talk about server applications where you might need some virtual machine, the databases, things in the cloud that you might need access to. That's something that might be cost prohibitive, You might be signing up with a service that has some free trials and other periods, but after a while, you're going to be able to maybe branch out, scale out, and be successful. You need a little more time than the third day or 1 year trial. So we'll talk about that. Finally, it says questions at the end, but questions are welcome anytime. So if you want to raise your hand and toss a ping pong ball at me, I know someone did that earlier, so you feel free to ball right now. So we don't have a giant beach ball to pass around, but we have that. Just showing you some patterns. All right, so quick intro. Where should you start? So, back in the day when a company would start, you just go ahead and do whatever you're doing, right? Maybe you can start in someone's garage, in your basement. Apple and Google, these are companies that have started in literally garage. Dell and Microsoft started in garage, right? In fact, I remember when Sergey Brin and Larry Page started Google, they had rented someone's garage to work in their home, and she's now one of the leading people at Google. You know who that person was? I forget the name. But it's someone important.
Yeah,
it's basically working for early on. And sometimes that's how you find partners. Right? You got to start somewhere. So a lot of people, when they start, they just have the basics. You got a website, and you have an email. Maybe it's info at something.com. Let's say for your startup, what's your startup name? Who has a name for their startup?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. So do you already have a domain for that? Yes. All right. So that's one of the first things you should do. So when should you start? Make sure you get that domain. And why is that important? Because it's part of your identity, part of who you are. You have some cool product, you want to be able to say it over and over again. And every company, small and large, is guilty of sometimes creating weird things that people can't do. And sometimes it works in their favor, where it is now unique to them, and it works out. And sometimes it's a weird name that people just can't say. When the Nintendo Wii came out, it was a super popular product, critics didn't see it, but everyone and their grandmother were literally buying it on the Wii. And they had a follow-up to that called Wii U. And when Wii U came out, a lot of people didn't know whether it was an accessory, whether it was a sequel, whether it was just a revised version of the Wii. It was a tough sell, but they were still successful in their own right because some of the software companies. So sometimes you can't succeed on every front. You can find other ways to succeed. So don't let others define what success really means. If you look at the number of consoles that were sold by Sony for their PlayStation, Microsoft for their Xbox, and the Nintendo Wii U, which wasn't able to catch up to the other numbers, even though they were quite slower. But selling games like Zelda and Mario, things that you may have heard of, whether you have little kids in the household or other family members, a lot of people have heard of them. So, in a sense, they found continued success with what they do. So again, do what you do well, find a passion, and make sure you get that. So that someone else will see it. Because there's legal battles. Email self-explanatory. If you have a domain, just get that. So what do you do with today's startup? You can't just have a website and email and call it a day. Right? I mean, you can go ahead and buy a domain for really cheap prices. Go to Namecheap, GoDaddy, and some other places. Who here already has it? All right. And then what domain is registered? Limited perspective. UMD perspective. And then what do you use?
I've got my name.me, and we've also got umd.im, so that's good.
No, I meant that what service.
Namecheap, yes.
Namecheap, okay. Yeah, so it's really popular on college campuses.
Yeah.
So, get what you can and just get that done, right? So now you can Namecheap. So today's startup, you gotta have a blog at some point. And you don't have to, because let's say you start one, and then you don't update it. So it's better to have a blog that actually better to not have a blog at all, than to have a blog you never update. If someone's going to go to your site, they'll look at your blog, and subscribe to it. There's only one update that says this is a test code or something. You definitely don't want that, right? Does anyone here have a blog already? All right, see hands in that. And what's your blog website address? All right, and when's the last time, when did you launch the blog? The 6th, it's been many years. And when's the last post that you made on the blog? Today? Very good. See? So that's what you should do, right? Start a blog and update it. If you can't keep it up, figure out a way to maybe can it and start something new. So it doesn't mean that you have to delete everything. You can make a final code that's like, hey, I'm try new things now, so that when people come to the site, they know who you are and they know what your intentions are. Because to come to the site and see really how close to users. So use technology to your benefit instead of letting it control you or giving the wrong impression of people. So in addition to that, you have an official app, right? If you just have a website that's mobile friendly, that's useful. But a lot of people here are working with someone working with web applications, someone learning to do some programming. You can get an HTML5 application really easily set up and maybe wrap it into something called PhoneGap, which helps you publish an HTML5 website onto a mobile platform. Or you can go a little deeper and learn some tools specifically for iOS, Android, Windows, and any other device you can think of, right? So think about that as well. You can build an official app in addition to your company website. But at the least, have a mobile-friendly site that scales. Aside from that, I mentioned earlier at the beginning that I will touch on social media. These products exist. These are only 3 examples that I have: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you don't have any pictures to post of whatever you're working on, obviously Instagram may not work for you. But if you have a detailed scientific article that you just wrote up on your blog, you could share it on Facebook and then tweet it as well, right? If you have maybe a cool 3D printout of a device that you're working with, you could put it on Instagram and see how you can get some viral marketing through that. So I noticed the fancy machines next door. Who here is using this machine for their starting today? Right? And can you tell me what you last printed out?
I printed out a tumor.
A tumor.
A brain tumor.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you took the tumor and then maybe had to take pictures different angles, put it on Instagram, or maybe even do a vine. You go around. There you go. So do that. Learn from each other and help promote each other as well. Because each of you have different circles of contact that overlap with each other. For example, when you go to Google Circles and see that different people have different circles, go to LinkedIn or some other place. And hopefully everyone here is on LinkedIn. All right, cool. A lot of students that are just starting out, that are freshmen, don't have LinkedIn. And I tell them, if you're just starting out, chances are you already had a job. When you're in high school, maybe you have another part-time job in college. But if you don't have your first job yet, just get a LinkedIn account. You do have education to list there. You have skills, hobbies, and everything else. Organizations you're affiliated with. Start with that and let social media work. So again, let technology work. So some of the product offerings that you may be offering others, let's say you have a new web application, right? So maybe you have a new webmail that flows Gmail out of it. Maybe you have a new dating site that's competing with it. Every time I go to some hackathon site, you're like, yes, this has this little Tinder-like and they have something go. So whatever you have use technology again to offer this product. You can have it as a mobile version, as a web app. This is in addition to your company's site or company app. Don't try and mix the two together because it might get confusing. So let's say your startup is called something. You have an name yet?
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, right?
Yeah.
So let's say with Wikipedia, you have your main site and a main app, right? And now you want to do maybe an app that is specific to one of the products you offer, maybe something to deal with your cancer treatment, right? Maybe it could be an interactive view of your looking at tumors and maybe seeing in all directions, looking at specific parts of the body, seeing how you can be affected, hospitals that might have something that would be beneficial to your user, but not only from your company perspective. So you could release a separate app there as a separate option so people can something like this, internal tool sounds a little boring. I give an example of the HR site. But again, if you have a technology needs as you're growing, you'll have the need for internal tools as well. So this would be really useful to something that you're doing. So what about the software needs that you might have? So from the left to the right, I have things like operating systems, and I'm just doing some Windows, Mac, and Linux logos there. The middle, productivity software, and down to the right, that's pure building software, and cloud service effectively. So we'll go deeper into each of them, but as you go on, you might realize you need one versus the other. You might not need everything, or you might not realize what you need early on. Start small, and then you need it. But Python is something you do well today. Learn that and hire other people to do Python as well. The phone is buzzing. So this one said offline, so I guess I'm switching over to the back to some but some of the offerings that we have is we provide Windows licenses to a program called BizSpark. And BizSpark is for any small business. So in addition to just having things that we make for our own platform, we also provide things for other platforms. So let's say if you have the need for productivity software, you can get it for your Mac or for your PC as well, for your iPad, for your Android, not just regular full versions of Office software, but also Office 365, which you can use to store stuff in the cloud, and also use it on your device. So let's say you pull up your iPad and you just want to open up a Word document or something's working on your resume, you can do that too. And if you don't want to pay for it, you can get everything for free by the BizSpark. So I do have a link there which explains how we provide this. Basically, any startup is eligible for this. You're just starting out. So normally, people go to the BizSpark website and they'll sign up, but they have a little waiting period. They wait a couple of days, and someone in Redmond, Washington, for Microsoft will approve their account. And it takes several days for them to go through. So what I do is actually provide a special code that approves right away. When you sign up, as you go through the steps, you're already approved. There's literally no. So signing up to the process, I pre-approved. So what would you want? Something like OS licenses, productivity software. But when you're starting out, you may need to buy a couple machines. You want to upgrade your machine. You may just have an existing machine that you need software for, right? But in addition to that, we also provide dev tools. So one of the things that I tell people is that when you're using our cloud platform or our dev tool, you can actually code not only for our platform, but our competitor platform as well. So we'll get into a little deeper on what those are. But first, a little bit about our cloud services. So Microsoft's cloud service is called Azure, and through the BizSpark program, which lasts for 3 years, so it's not just like a 1 week trial or 1 month or 1 year. For 3 years, you get full use of all the software that we have available. And you also get monthly credit to use on the cloud. So through the Azure service, you get stuff like what we do that for those of you who can't do that. Stuff like virtual machines, websites, databases, mobile services, and notifications. There's just a couple of them. So think about what is the market full of these days? We have people with mobile devices, mostly iOS and Android devices, and you need some sort of back-end code, right? You also need to develop apps that are directly running on these machines. So instead of letting people know that we have our own devices, we also provide services for your device. So if you want to build something for Android and iOS, we have tools for that. If you want to build backend for Android and iOS, we have tools for that. So we'll go into a little bit more deeper when we go into the Azure part. But that was our intro. Is there any questions so far before I go into the meeting?
All right, when you get into the Azure part, can you explain the difference between Microsoft Cloud Service and other cloud services that are Azure?
Sure. I'll just, to the best of my ability, because I know a lot more about Azure, not specific. But I'll explain what differentiates. And I have some first-hand experience working with people with Cisco for Amazon CC2.
For people who are doing startups now, it seems like there's always a balance between like using what you have and trying to get things up quickly versus like not incurring a bunch of technical debt. And
so what about the 1 second? I just realized that the call may have been for the pizza.
Oh,
it's a nice
yes,
Oh gosh.
I couldn't imagine who was calling. Normally, I don't like to end my calls. Where would the pizza arrive?
Well, the doors are locked. Oh.
You open the front door?
They're all
I don't think he can come in the building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't leave his car.
Yeah, I guess my number was a bad number too. So I guess it's something. All right. So on to app development or game development. Earlier, I mentioned that it's something that you can be doing, and I lumped these together because it's still the same process on any of these platforms: to building something, submitting something. So I won't go into the technical detail of actually building the product, but rather So I mentioned the Visual Studio being one of Microsoft's premier development tools. Obviously, supports something like Windows. But over here, I also mentioned third-party tools as well. Because since iOS and Android is a huge force in the marketplace, we definitely wanted to provide something that can work with these other tools. So I'll mention a couple of things here, Xamarin and Cordova. So Cordova allows you to have some sort of code sharing, where when you're publishing on iOS or Android, you can have this wrapper that lets you publish on multiple platforms using a standard HTML5 shell. Xamarin is a lot more different. It lets you build native apps with native performance on computing tools like iOS. The way that works is Xamarin is a third-party company that provides their own IDE, but also an SDK that you can use within our IDE. An IDE, for those of you who don't know, is an integrated development environment where you use all your coding, you build, you compile your code, and you can run your apps as well. Which is really cool. Because a lot of people, they're thinking, I got to publish to both these devices. I got to hire a Mac team and an Android team to do all this. So instead of telling people, hey, we have some awesome tools, but I'm publishing on our platform, I come to you and say, publish to whatever platform you like. We've got some tools. So what's the and from game development, it's again similar. We have tools that you can develop directly to Windows and Xbox. But to go onto all these other platforms, there's some third-party tools to make some games. I mentioned both of these, Construct 2 and Unity. So let's say you have a cool project, you just want to build a side project, and you're not focusing on game development. You want to do something quickly. Construct 2 actually lets you do game development for multiple platforms, mostly with modern tablets and smartphones, but not consoles. Unity is a little more difficult, where it lets you do a lot of visual development, but with programming as well, and it lets you target consoles as well. But the reason I mentioned Construct 2 is that you can build a game that maybe makes your product fun and puts it into the hands of people, and doesn't require any programming. And the output is basically an HTML5 game that runs in any web browser, and you can also package it as an app to multiple devices.
Is that free, or is that do you have to pay to use that?
There's a free version, and the paid version is like $100. Maybe $130.
Is that just in order to put it on particular devices, or is that what is
the free version publishes to other devices too, and it lets you legally. The free version can be used to publish free games. If you want to publish a commercial game, they suggest buying it, which I would recommend as well. And Unity, same thing. There's a free version that does a lot, right? But again, it requires a programming, and if you want to buy the full pro version, pro version is pretty expensive. So $100 can cost $1,500.
Right. It depends on which sim you
but the good news is that I like to tell people that if you're publishing on Windows platforms using Unity, it's free. There's no additional charge you pay. The free version can be used to do that. And for Xbox One, if someone wants to, let's say if you're working on either a game or even a Connect project, whatever, Xbox One program has a program where you can sign up and then approve. This is the if approved, you get 2 free Xbox Ones for your dev team. So it's a good start. It costs over $1,000 to do that too. But do what you can and start small. Construct 2, again, no programming. If you want to quickly publish something that is a fun, interactive application that promotes your startup, go for it. All right, so we talked a little bit about app development, game development, stuff you can use. But let's go to cloud service, because no matter what you're doing, in the back end, you're going to need some sort of cloud service eventually. Either you're developing maybe your main app offering, or maybe a complementary app, maybe something for the startup that you have today, or maybe something. All right, so that one over there says Azure Mobile Services. I think it's been covered up by the graphics, so let's read it out loud. So the PowerPoint you can download from the site. I'll email that. That should all be on right now. I don't know if it's running within PowerPoint or not, or something else. So anyway, I mentioned those bullet points earlier when we talked about mobile notifications and things like that. So what does that mean? Think about if you have Facebook on your phone, and then you have an iPhone device, and someone else is on their Windows laptop and they send you a message. And you get a notification, right? So there's something in the back end that ties everything together, regardless of what platform you're on. So in that case, you have to have some sort of back-end code. The user doesn't really care what it is. They just want it to work in their own device. So our Azure service, which as I mentioned, you can get for free with this part, enable you to write code to have mobile notifications and services in the background. And you don't have to do .NET on it. You can use Node.js and JavaScript and everything. You can build web applications in any language you want. And you can support iOS and Android, but HTML5 apps. So every time I talk about something like that, I'll provide a little link down there. That way when you download my presentation, you'll be able to see more details on how to what to do. But at the same time, the documentation is pretty detailed, such that you just go to your favorite search engine and type in the word Azure, followed by the thing you're looking for, let's say Azure Local Services. One of the top ones you'll get is the documentation on Azure.
So what are some of the other mobile services providers that would do some of the same things as Azure?
So there's, you mean like other competitors to Azure?
Right.
Yeah, so Amazon is our big competitor.
Right, but I mean like to like some of these particular things, like mobile notifications, like Amazon's not going to do that for you, but you can use Firebase or like some other
So
thing.
it's sort of like a combination of everything. So normally what people look at Amazon for is virtual machines and websites.
Right.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
So you get web applications, stuff like this. You know, we try to sneak in little things here and there based on what customers have been asking us. And I work with startups and students every day, and people come to me and say, hey, you know, I haven't looked at Microsoft. What do you guys have? And I say, oh, I have these Azure things. So how much it's going to cost me? Well, we can start for free with this part, and I'll get it signed up within minutes. And when they sign up, they'll go free. So a lot of the time, people aren't aware of what's available. So again, I'm available not only for today, but my contact info is at the end.
Right.
What I can do is when I email you the presentation, I'll email you the BizPart for the sales email. So everyone here can get a free account. And if you have any questions, like, hey, how do I sign up? You know, I couldn't get through
Right.
what's going on.
So
you know, just let me know. And I'll help
So
you.
like Azure is your like EC2 plus Twilio plus Firebase
Yes,
plus
a little bit of everything.
Right.
So if you find that something's not available, like I know actually a good friend of mine works at Twilio, when I go to Hackathon,
Right.
he's always there. And before we left our previous company, he and I worked together, and we went separate ways. And then Mike said he's at Twilio,
Right.
we see each other at Hackathon. So they use Twilio is very focused on what they do, and I haven't seen a similar service for Azure yet.
Okay.
So we tell people use what you want. If it's not in Azure yet, tell them that you're looking for it, and you can use it in that other service.
Got it.
So you can have a website hosted in Azure, but it could be used in Azure Maps because people like the so yeah, use what you can. So that being said, when Azure started, it used to be called Windows Azure. And it was a little confusing because it was over 4 years ago, and over the years they started offering Linux hosting as well. So Amazon, when they started out with their EC2, the last week's last they had both Windows and Linux, and they were the biggest Windows hosting provider in the world. And so Microsoft last year crossed that. So Microsoft became the biggest hosting provider under OS. So in addition to that, they offer Linux as well. And anyone here Linux users? All right. So chances are most of the servers in the world are running either Linux or Windows. And there are a lot of tools you can use. I put a couple of tools out there like Puppet and Chef. If you never use them, don't worry about them because you're not going to need them tomorrow. But it's just good to know that all these are provided by the original vendors. So let's say we want maybe a virtual machine running a certain version of Linux. We have partnerships with it. They're actually partnering with Microsoft to provide those images to us. And they're all frequently updated, so it's been exploding so far as lots of offered. These are competing databases, which you've seen a bit. So who here uses databases mostly? MySQL or anything else? What do you use for database? MongoDB. How about you?
Whatever I need. Right now I'm using Mongo, but I also use Postgres, MySQL.
So you'll find that, you know, a lot of things that you need are available on different OSs, so which I thought was very important for Microsoft to start offering Linux as well. So the next thing over here is I talk about server applications. Before we go into database stuff, start with this. Web technologies. Our biggest thing with Visual Studio is C#, which we promote a lot for the class software development. So the Unity stuff I talked about earlier, you can code Unity games in C#, published not only to Microsoft Xbox, but also to Windows. So again, it's cross-platform thing, but sometimes people don't like that. We're learning some Python today. So it's doing a whole bunch of stuff. Finally, cartoon girls who have Python, PHP, and JavaScript. Whether you want some Node.js or Python or some other stuff, you can set up a website within seconds and run your company. You want to make sure that this giant Azure data centers that we have around the world, the last count was 16 or 18 data centers, and each data center is like a 6 football field or something. They're pretty large. So let's make sure that when there's outages, that you're covered somehow, right? And if by whatever chance you don't get the 99.99 whatever percent availability, you get monetary compensation to take care of it. We want to make sure that that happens, but while that's being taken care of on the hardware side, the software side, you want to make sure you can use languages that you're comfortable with, right? All web languages, on the front end, you have your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, so it doesn't matter what the back end is, but on the back end, sometimes you care, right? The customer is only getting this code, but you're getting all that. So we want to make sure that there's something available. So one side we have Java, there's C#, and we have all the other scripting languages that are available. Again, hopefully something for everyone. The next, data storage. Microsoft's biggest database product is SQL Server, and our biggest competitor in that field is Oracle. So instead of shutting Oracle, we provide not only Oracle databases, but actually full virtual machines with Oracle pre-installed, actually configured by the folks. So again, not only working with the competitor, but offering their services on top to our base. Down here, we have stuff like the NoSQL stuff, MongoDB. DB is Microsoft NoSQL implementation. MySQL, again, very popular with PHP. Who here knows the LAMP stack? All right. You can tell me. LAMP? Yeah. What does it stand for? That's actually MySQL. So basically, a lot of people use all these technologies, right? We recognize that as well. So we want to make sure that, again, MySQL is part of that. Then there's something called Hadoop. Everyone heard of Hadoop? So there's a big buzzword called big data. And a lot of CEOs love to talk about big data. They'll hire people to do big data. No one knows just like that. So Microsoft has our own implementation of it. It's a full Hadoop implementation called HD Insight. It lets you, in simpler language, peek into your data and make sense. Let's say nowadays you have data from everywhere. So without going into any technical details, I can tell you that when you're working with a lot of data, you need to figure out a way to wrangle that data and make sense of it. So you might not be able to use traditional databases to do it. Hadoop has been there for a while. And HD Insight hopefully will make it a lot easier. So again, a lot of different competitors, platforms available here. Link down there as well. And if you forget the link, just search Azure database and whatever product you're looking for. If there's anything that you don't find today, like let's say you want to use something, and hey, you know what? That's not available. I'm not going to try it out. And yeah, say that hey, this is my favorite technology. It's not available. So what we usually do is report back to people working on the product, and if they get enough requests, all these have come. People are literally saying, "I'm not going to use your product. You're going to have to go here." So this came from years of this is figure out what. Some of you may have noticed Microsoft had a new CEO last year, going around February or March last year, which is also not coincidence, but companies' prospects have been looking good based on what they're offering. I like the openness. I couldn't have imagined joining the company years ago, and now they're very different. I've worked with their technology for years, but direction is something. So if you are interested in any of the stuff that is not shown here, or we'll have a conversation. So that was actually the main part of the agenda. So we have pizza waiting for everyone. So before we break and then go there, anyone have any questions?
Can we ask questions? Maybe get pizza. I would feel terrible asking a question that would keep.
All right, everyone go get pizza. So earlier when you got up, I noticed all these missed calls.
Yeah, I figured about it. I know that.
Color? What was that? I had no. I think I don't know if someone's watching. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, well, the video feed.
Is anyone actually watching? One person. So I'm about to set up a server in DigitalOcean. Like, that's big on or people who are in the shop. It seems very easy. But I just want to say general. Do like this. Why would it matter?
How long is your okay, cool. So if it's something you have today, start with that.
Right.
So I'll be honest with you. If the credit that I give you, it's start when you want it to start. Usually when I give a code, I set an expiration date on it. So what I'll do is for the whole team, I'll get up an code, and then you'll have my contact info. I'll come find me later. You're done with your credits, or if you have some time. Now, when people start with something new, I wouldn't recommend starting 2 meetings at the same time. You're not going to get the I was wondering that. So I was talking to a friend of mine who started with Amazon service. He works on it, and he wanted to try something. And instead of waiting, and after a while, I wish Microsoft had something good like this right now. This was like months later because he suddenly had something time. He didn't even try to have that. But try something different. Hey, there's this smartphone. They give you code. They sign up for codes really easy. So right now, because you're getting started with the credit, do that first. And when you have time, try the code that I sent you, or if it's already expired. Okay. I love that. DigitalOcean or
DigitalOcean is pretty much. There was a big competitor to AWS. Azure, DigitalOcean, but
yeah, it's good. I like the fact that
DigitalOcean is AWS is awesome. Like, services provide super cool.
Sometimes I would go in and it would say it's money on it, and it was really bad stuff. So Amazon has had that stuff for a while, but with the question of customer service,
Sort of the same way. It's just like interaction, like people real to the platform. So when you come in, you get this huge taking care of like onboarding on the user.
and that's one of the reasons that we're building they say, hey, we decided Amazon to do great things about it, and we want to use it, but there's no one there to help us out. But we're here right now, so I'll sign up with you. And then he was honest, he was like, what if you sent me an email you never met us in person? I wouldn't have signed up. Since you're here today, hold on.
Same experience at George. So I went to because they were there at 3 a.m.
So that's it. That's actually answering your earlier question, which is
Right.
actually, so last year I was sponsoring the chance of sponsoring with some of them. We're going to keep really
Digital technical box. So after the speakers are once in a while, we're at the box that are like usually you shall have max
Hey, can everyone sort of come back over here so we can all start asking each other questions in a few minutes? So we can be with you, it's pretty formal, but let's get everyone back over here so we can finish this up with some questions. And we're still recording, by the way. So like, come back over here. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That being broadcasted?
Yeah.
Are there how many thousand people watching?
No joke.
I'm serious.
Oh my God. Microsoft, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Microsoft. I'm so sorry. I hope you enjoyed it though. Did you see it? They probably enjoyed it. I probably made their day. I'm just getting money to spend.
You know what Bill Gates does for entertainment in the evenings, right?
He dances.
No, he watches these videos.
I have an idea.
Hi, Mr. Gates.
Mr. Gates. You think that's the one viewer? Bill Gates. Watching the startup show.
What else is he doing with his time?
Writing down all of our ideas as we go in the circle.
I know all of our names.
Got the little sticky note on his webcam.
He's like, phone keeps ringing again. He like answers it. There's a pizza guy at the door. It's like Bill Gates holding it at the pizza. I knew it was really strange.
Yeah, we like hard enough.
Almost a good. Almost a
So to continue, I wanted to repeat some of the questions I got during the break so that everyone can hear the answers. So one of the questions I got was, so DigitalOcean, Digital Grid Market.
Ocean.
DigitalOcean, right? So what's your name again?
Rob.
So Rob here said, hey, I just got some free credits for DigitalOcean. Why should I switch to Azure today? So my answer was, don't switch to Azure. Try out their credits, and when you have some time, which everyone does eventually. I'm going to send out the free code to everyone in the group. And if you want to try it out, maybe a month from now, whatever, go ahead. Usually when I generate these codes, they expire within a certain number of days. So that if it does expire, I can just contact you directly. I'll send you the code. So I'll tell you a story about friend of mine who works in IT, and last year he told me about the Amazon service he had signed up for. He was happy about it. I set the virtual machine, the service running, and all that. And then, I didn't tell him a lot about the stuff I was working on. He knew that I worked at Microsoft. And I said, we have some stuff together. But, fast forward 2015, I met him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, hey, you know what? I wish that Microsoft had something available so we could sign up. I said, actually, we do. This is this part. So again, he freaked out, he signed up, and now he's up and running. Yeah, it was really cool. So again, if you're trying out something else, go ahead and try it. I'll give you a code. You can try it side by side, compare. If you're busy, try it out when you have. Another question I had, what was your question, Aaron? Yeah, so let's say you need lots of parallel machines running at the same time. How do you what is Azure offer? So there's different ways you can set that up. Whether you want multiple machines running at the same time, whether you just want backups for the existing machines that you have. So again, you pay as you go. So the credits that we give you, if you run out, you can actually request a higher amount. So this part gives you a certain number of dollars per month to use, and if you feel like you're outgrowing it, just get in touch with me. There's something we have called this part plus that gives you a lot more. But that's a shorter version. So this part is selling for 3 years, and this part plus is 1 year. So again, start small. Then I can also give you tips on how to configure your bandwidth. That way, when you get started, you don't want to have 10 virtual machines running every day for 30 days. You might have one just to try out. If you get a 3-day event where you need 10 machines, you bring them all up, and then you don't have to release them to shut them down. And then after,
Can that be done programmatically so that it scales like when you're getting a heavy load, it can start?
Yeah, so you can schedule things, you can set things up programmatically.
Okay.
It's up to you, how you want to do it. So anything you can do on the machine, you can remote it to it. Let's say you want to set up a Minecraft server, you can do that as well. There's actually a Minecraft VM template. So maybe that's why Microsoft purchased Minecraft, but they actually have the ability to set Minecraft. So I'll tell you another story. There's 2 brothers that I met recently. One of them was in high school, the other one in college. And they started their own business where they're teaching, they have 3 businesses. One of their businesses, they're teaching game development and Minecraft mods to little kids. And they're students themselves. And they have a tutorial center where whenever they get time, they'll go with other family members and run the place. So one of the things that they were doing is Minecraft mods. They needed Minecraft. So they set up Azure, Linux box, and people that have remote to it. So look up the documentation, send emails. So again, if you face any challenges with like, hey, I tried to sign up here, I can't go to the next step, just reach out to me. Obviously, I can't come up here all the time, but through phone calls, emails, Skype, whatever. I also do office hours in DC. So just like you have your own space over here, there's a space in DC called 1776.
Yeah.
A lot of money has. So Microsoft was one of the founding sponsors for 1776. So we have our own lounge over there, much like this space here. We don't have a ping pong table, so you have to do it. But I do go there once a week. In fact, I was there earlier today to do my office hours for Microsoft. And between the Todd class and Howard, today's been a long day. So if I look a little tired, it's because I've been bouncing back. So normally I don't have the 3 things in the same day. So any new questions?
I had a question about technical debt earlier. So there's this lean thing where you go and you just get exactly what you need. And you don't think ahead. You don't try and plan for the future. You just okay, I need this next thing. I need it now, and now that's when you add on. Is there an argument that you can make? It seems like Azure is sort of you go on the other end and you say like, listen, this is good for the future. Like when we need these new things, it'll be so super easy to add to it, rather than through this lean method. You can accumulate a lot of that technical debt, where it's like, oh man, you might need to go back and refactor all this. It'll be super crazy.
So to address it, so there's a bunch of questions in there. So is everyone familiar with what technical debt is? There's someone not now, see if I'm shaking out. So I'll explain it. So basically, technical debt is, think about you're writing code, right? And you have to get like 10 new features in by month. And that's a lot, right? And you're trying to get those features in. It's like, I got to cut some corners. Maybe there'll be some error messages here. There's some unique scenario that happens which causes an error. I'll just let that pass. I'll squeeze all those features in. You come in the morning, you have a shiny new login page. You log in, but tomorrow someone enters the question mark as their password character, and that breaks the page. So someone calls your tech support line, you say, hey, you know what? You can put a question mark in there because that actually breaks your code. And then your customer gets pissed off and leaves your code. Goes to something better. So, oh, I just lost this one. What did I do? So what something like the lean method or technical debt tells us is that technical debt is something you accumulate because you're shoveling something out to the side, sort of like something under the rug, and you don't take care of this thing. But if you always have a minimally viable product, that's always working. So let's say today you have a fully functional login page, right? You're able to log in, go to your database, hit up the user, brings you that. Maybe it doesn't even let you register yet. But you can manually add a database entry. You write a script to do that, so you can just log in and test that, right? Make sure it works on all devices, that it looks right. Just get that working. So that's one step. So one thing that we use in a lot of corporate projects, I say a lot of them, not all, because in my past life, before I joined Microsoft Technical Evangelist, I worked in software consulting, software development for many, many years. And what we found out is every time we went to a new client site, they were using something called waterfall. Let's do this, and let's do that, let's do that, and let's use your process. The problem with that is that you have all these requirements in the beginning, and the requirements change as you go forward. So by the time you go through it, what you're developing is already wrong. It's inherently wrong. So sometimes you make mistakes, you have some technical debt, and sometimes you just do things that are wrong because you don't know change requirements. So the problem with that is that you can't be agile. So this approach of going lean is actually called agile. So one of the most popular forms of agile is Scrum, where you have a short periods of time. The name comes from rugby, by the way, joining the team together. So you have a Scrum meeting every morning. You gather around maybe sometimes also called a stand-up meeting. So you go to the meeting every morning and say, hey, what did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? What happened wrong? So that's all you talk about. Basically, this meeting is with a small group of people. It's over a minute. You go back and you work on things that don't incur too much technical debt. When you do have technical debt, you do it consciously. So let's say you have some code in there that works in 10 countries, but not all countries involved. So let's say you know you're launching in 10 countries, you're not launching in all countries tomorrow. You can actually get away with it on localization of language. So you get to decide what you're going to put under the rug, so to speak. And something like Azure, it's I guess in a way it's apples and oranges, so that doesn't affect what you're using in the back end.
Right.
You could be using something else. But we have something called the Visual Studio Online, which lets you do source control and continuous integration. And continuous integration helps you with your Agile environment. So let's say you have code that you're writing. Let's say you said two of you are on the same team, right? So let's say you check out some code, and then you check out some code tomorrow and breaks the code. So with continuous integration, you get accomplished error right away. So let's say you're done working at 8 p.m. tonight, you go to sleep, you're working until 2 a.m. because you work so hard, right? But it's got all these bugs in there, and then boom, it breaks the code. So you're getting notifications, and if you choose, you can get email notifications and whatnot. So with source code combined with continuous integration, you can actually make the process work for you. So you know when the code breaks right away, you know it's broken, and you don't have to update or deploy broken code. So hopefully that'll help you in the process, but as part of what this part talks about, we could give you a Visual Studio Online account, which is not the developer environment online, but rather the support system. Whether you have a GitHub or something else, it supports both Microsoft CFS and also Git as well. Also, if you're using Git, continue to use it. Very helpful. So, I don't know if that answers all your question.
Yeah, I guess I should be a little more clear what my question. So it seems like it's pretty easy if you're doing this lean process. Like I just need this thing. Then going with some open source project that just gives you that might be like the right step at that time. But if you're looking down the road at your future and you think, well, I'm going to need this, but I'm also going to need all these other things, then instead of that open source project that gives you that little feature, you go with something like Azure, which gives you that feature plus a bunch of features that you're not going to use right now. And it might be a little more complicated to get all set up, but down the road, it's easy to integrate these new services. Is there some argument that sort of future looking is the way to go rather than adding these little pieces and then man, I'm using Travis and Quilio, and I've got all of these different pieces that are
Yeah, so the best practice for that is be comfortable as much as possible.
right.
So, in terms of, we'll go a little technical here. There's something called dependency injection or
Right.
version control. So where you say you're writing your code. Let's say I'll make it simple that everyone can understand. If you're new to code. Let's say you have an email application that says use the SMTP server and then send this message to that server, right? Well, what if tomorrow you want to use something else to send a message? What if you want to create a new object in your code? With an object-oriented program, you create an object and you call a method on it, send it, right? What if you want to create maybe a different object that is not a mail server, but it could be sending you text messages, right? It could be some feature notification system that we don't know about. So with something like dependency injection, you're basically enabling your code to work sort of inversely. The code doesn't know exactly what it's going to use, but you're sort of passing it around. So this dependency injection is sort of beyond the scope of the discussion. But if you want to note down something you want to look up later, dependency injection or version control. That's one way to code where even if you switch things around, use different services, it'll be easier to swap it out. I'll explain in terms of an analogy and moving the real world. Think about this plug behind you. You see like a bunch of a black cord over there and a white cord. You can go anywhere in the world, right? And then you can find the plug in. If it's not the right side, you can buy an adapter to plug in, right? That's what dependency is. So you have what you have. Maybe you swap it out for something else. But if you have some sort of adapters, you can figure out ways to plug in.
Right. So the best practice seems to unless you're aware that that's the thing that you're going to have do down the road. It's not that hard to do it immediately, but you
have to think of it ahead of time.
Right.
So the way with DI is that if you don't think of writing your code that way ahead of time, you're going to have to work it out. Like a friend of mine and I, once we worked in the same company, and at that client side, it's a little different, so I won't name them. But they had thousands of lines of code and they didn't have any unit tests. So does anyone here know what unit tests are? So does anyone know here what unit tests are? All right. Can you explain what unit tests?
So you want to test modules one by one. So it's a test that tests a particular method call, or it tests some unit of your code. So you want to have a test suite where you can run all your tests, and then if all your tests are passing, then you know that your code is actually going to work.
Exactly. So it's code that tests your code. You've written all this application code. Now you go write all this test code to test your application code. Sounds like a lot of work, but
not
if you right.
Don't do that order.
And if you use the right the testing, the correct testing, I guess different scenarios, you can anticipate a couple of things. Use something that's called test-driven development, where you don't even write the application first. You have to write the test first. Remember I told you about the login page? Instead of creating that login page, you write a test that says test login functionality, whatever you call it. There's so many conventions out there, but there's some really good conventions in a book called The Art of Unit Testing. So again, if you want to make a note of it, The Art of Unit Testing, a really good book that will help you write better tests. So you start with TDD, test-driven development, and you figure out what the functionality of your app is, and that in itself should document your code, right? So people are wondering, what does our application do, right? If you look at all the functioning of your test method, it says ensure login is successful, test login with special characters or whatever, and then you can pass your single function, you can pass some parameters, special characters can be a question mark and other things, and you have things like expected values, right? In your unit test, you can specify what is expected and what's being returned. And if you specify what's expected, you actually know how your application is doing. The person who joins the team can actually look at all the unit tests and figure out exactly what the code does. So again, great way to do development is to start with tests. But that's also a good way to make sure that you don't break it. Let's say you do swap out code with something else, right? You run all your tests, great, right? So you can comment out all your tests, but that's not going to solve anything. But the project that I worked in, they had no tests at the beginning. We talked to the other contractors who started on the project. They said, well, we started out with some tests, but they weren't working, so we just couldn't do it. They had like 2 tests written, so what we did was the client was paying us to just fix their code, but we said we have to rip everything out. So we actually restructured a lot of their code to do the application for large organizations spread out in the US and Canada. And they wanted to make sure that they're still functioning daily, but we were still able to update the code. So we did the unit test in addition to ripping up their code, doing updates. We had a separate team doing updates and collections. We made sure that when they were ready to go, we had a fully functional project, and we did take multiple months to make sure that everything was fully unit tested and we could release it. But the non-technical people at the table asked me, what is this unit testing, refactoring, restructuring? What does that even mean? Isn't that the same thing? And it was scary to explain to paying customers that I'm going to rewrite all their code, and it's going to do exactly the same thing it did for several months. It's a lot of money. Well, the way I explained it to them is, let's say you have a kitchen that's really messy, right? I'd ask you to go find a can of tomato. You can go find it, because it's probably there somewhere, right? But if it takes you 10 minutes to find a can of tomato every time, it's going to be tough because someone's waiting for it. The same way, let's say a customer, their customer, that our customer's customer, for a new feature, right? And the developer goes to it and says, well, I don't know which one to change. That's it. So they start changing some mistakes, something here, this code breaks, they run the test, this one breaks, they have no test. So what test are they going to run? They don't maybe find the dead code. Something breaks somewhere else and they're in a mess. So instead of trying to look under a pile of dishes, find your tomato footage, you just clean up the kitchen a little, everything's put away nicely. If you have like 10 cans of tomatoes in a little detail, throw away some cans, expired ones, leave some new ones in there. When you're refactoring, you're picking up the function. You have less giant function and more market and smaller function. So it's nice and clean. The restructuring that we did was equivalent to ripping up the cabinets and rebuilding the cabinets so they look nice. So let's say you walk into your kitchen and you have legacy cabinets, but maybe it's just a gazebo or something. We just completely like out of place in the kitchen. And that's what we found. We just weren't able to refactor it. In which case, the kitchen example, we just weren't able to put the dishes into a gazebo. We needed shelves. So we broke everything apart, put everything back together. Looked like a nice kitchen. Where you put your dishes, throw away the old tomatoes, everything was good. So people were happy. And the contractors who had worked on it for several years, they were literally so depressed that they I'm actually, when I was talking the first time I was talking to them, they were telling me that they were on some work visa, staying in the company, and they couldn't go and that kind of stuff. So they were doing the campaign, and they stuck here. So they were sad, but after this was done, they commented after the hey, we love writing unit tests, this is fun. And, before that, they were thinking, this is not fun. So again, I felt their pain, and we made it up. When you write code, don't just think about yourself and your head, but think about other people who can look at the code later. Right? Maybe you sold your company, your startup to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You make millions, right? And look at your code. Wait a second, no deal, because your code's horrible. So it could be anything. And for those who are not doing decoding for your startup, maybe you're running the business, maybe you're doing research, at some point you're going to hire developers and engineers to do technical stuff. Keep in mind all these things that I mentioned today, technical debt meaning, right? Technical debt meaning don't defer things that are important today. Find a good reference. Right. Unit test itself. And unit test, make sure you write code, that you test your code, make sure it's good. So again, we're all doing all sorts of using all sorts of technology in our startups today. You may or may not be the one building it, but someone will be building it. Just keep that.
About the refactoring, a lot of times when I'm coding, I find that there's a much better way to write this now that I can see how it would be working together. At what point do you kind of stop that and move on to the more pressing matters?
When it's 4 a.m. the next day and you have to get up at 8 in the morning, it's good to have stopped a little earlier. But you decide, sometimes it's worth it. Like let's say we're fueled by our passion for something, right? Sometimes it's okay to not see your full 8 hours, but don't make it a habit. So the term I look to is sustainable pace. So if whatever you're doing, if it's having good results, you can keep it up, then do it. If it's not having good results, don't do it. And if it's having good results, but you can't keep it up, then don't do it. So the combination here is having good results, and you're able to keep it up at a certain pace. Can you keep doing it for as long as you need? Obviously, if you're working 20 hours a day, you're not going to be able to do it. So which is why hackathons are great, because you're awake for 36 hours, give or take, right? And then you have something cool at the end, and you don't have to do that every day. Can you imagine if they told that they can organizers to make hackathons last for all week? You get burnt out. Right? So there's no way you can do it. So just keep that up. Keep it up.
Biological debt.
And there's no, we can't repay that.
Does anyone else have any questions?
All right, let's give it up for Shahed.